Hello. Thank you for watching the video till the end. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in this type of content, please subscribe. I would be grateful to you. Let's move on to the story. Story 1: Blue Ridge Nightmare. A group of college friends, Mark, Jessica, Emily, and Tom, decided to spend a weekend exploring the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. They planned a 2-day hike with an overnight stay at a campsite high in the mountains. Mark, an experienced hiker, confidently took on the role of group leader. They anticipated an exciting adventure, but little did they know that this hike would become their worst nightmare. The weather was perfect as they set out on their journey. The forest was filled with the sounds of nature, birds singing, leaves rustling, and streams gurgling. The friends walked along a narrow trail that led them deeper into the wild and beautiful mountains. They laughed and chatted, enjoying each other's company and the beauty of their surroundings. At sunset, they found the perfect spot for their campsite on a small clearing overlooking the valley. They set up tents and built a campfire. As they prepared dinner, they shared stories and felt a sense of peace and security under the starry night sky. Around midnight, Mark woke up to a strange noise outside his tent. He carefully peeked out and noticed movement in the forest. At first, he thought it was an animal, but the noise persisted, making Mark uneasy. He decided to wake Tom, who was on watch that night. Tom also heard the sound and suggested they check it out. Grabbing their flashlights, they cautiously moved toward the noise. As they got closer, the sounds became louder and clearer footsteps. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped, and there was complete silence. Mark and Tom shone their flashlights around but saw no one. They returned to camp, deciding it might have been an animal, and tried to sleep again. The next day, as the sun rose, Emily discovered one of the tents had been slashed open. The items inside were gone. Panic swept through the group. Someone had clearly been in their camp during the night. They searched the area for clues but found nothing. Mark suggested they return to the main trail and leave the forest as soon as possible. They quickly packed up and set off. However, the further they walked, the stronger the feeling that someone was watching them grew. By evening, they stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin in the forest. Deciding it was a good place for temporary shelter, they went inside. The cabin was dark and dusty, but it provided protection from potential threats outside. They barred the doors and windows, hoping to spend the night in relative safety. At night, when everyone was asleep, Jessica heard the creak of floorboards. She woke up and saw the door slowly opening. In the moonlight, she could see the silhouette of a person standing in the doorway. Jessica screamed, waking the others. In a panic, they saw the figure disappear into the darkness. The next day, the friends decided to take no more risks and leave everything behind to reach civilization as quickly as possible. They walked without stopping until they finally reached a road where local residents picked them up. They reported the incident to the police, but no trace of the intruder was found. That weekend left deep scars on the friends. They never returned to the Blue Ridge Mountains and always recalled those terrible nights with trepidation. Someone or something in those woods had been watching them, and they knew they were lucky to have escaped alive. Story 2: Disappearance at Lake Glen. A group of university students, Brian, Kate, Laura, and Josh, decided to spend a weekend in nature, going on a hike to the picturesque Lake Glen in Minnesota. Brian, an experienced hiker, took on the organization of the trip and confidently led his friends to the adventure. They planned to spend the night by the lake and return home the next day. They began their hike early in the morning. The path to the lake was scenic, surrounded by dense forests and fields. Laura and Josh took photos of the nature while Kate and Brian discussed the route. The day was warm and sunny, and everything was going according to plan. When they reached the lake, it was already getting dark. They found a perfect spot for their camp by the water, set up their tents, and lit a campfire. The evening passed with conversations, laughter, and enjoyment of the lake views under the starry sky. In the middle of the night, Laura was awakened by a strange noise coming from the forest. She quietly called Josh to listen. The sounds resembled cries and rustling, as if someone or something was moving in the darkness. Josh decided to wake the others, and they all went outside to investigate. The forest was dark and quiet, with only the sounds of nature surrounding them. But then they noticed a flashlight beam flickering among the trees. Brian suggested it might be other hikers and decided to check it out. Laura, Kate, and Josh stayed by the fire, waiting for his return. More than half an hour passed, but Brian did not come back. Kate started to panic, and Josh suggested they go look for him. They grabbed their flashlights and followed Brian's trail, but the forest was thick and they quickly lost their way. They walked deeper into the forest, the sounds of cries and rustling growing louder. Suddenly they heard a loud scream from Brian and ran in its direction. On a small clearing they found only his flashlight and signs of a struggle on the ground. Brian was nowhere to be found. Panicked, they returned to the camp, hoping he would return on his own. But hours passed, and Brian did not appear. In the morning, as dawn broke, they decided they needed to seek help. When they reached the nearest town, they immediately contacted the police. A search began, but no trace of Brian was found. The police questioned everyone, but the only thing they could report were the strange sounds and the flashlight in the forest. Weeks went by, but the search yielded no results. Brian remained missing. The friends couldn't believe what had happened and took a long time to recover from the shock. Years passed, but the mystery of Brian's disappearance remained unsolved. Lake Glen became a place they no longer remembered without fear. Whoever or whatever took their friend that night remained a mystery that forever changed their lives. Story 3: Stalker of Arroyo Canyon. College friends Michael, Sarah, Rebecca, and John decided to spend a weekend in Arroyo Canyon in New Mexico. It was a beautiful and remote place, perfect for hiking and camping under the open sky. Michael, an experienced hiker and climber, confidently took on organizing the trip and leading the group. The journey began early in the morning. The friends walked along the trail leading deeper into the canyon, admiring the rock formations and landscapes. Sarah and Rebecca took photos of nature, while John and Michael discussed plans for the evening. The weather was perfect, and nothing foreshadowed trouble. When they reached the depths of the canyon, it was already getting dark. They found a suitable spot for their camp by a small river and lit a fire. The evening passed with conversations, laughter, and discussions of upcoming adventures. Late at night, Michael woke up to a strange sound. He looked out of his tent and noticed that the fire had gone out and silence enveloped the surroundings. However, sounds resembling rustling and footsteps came from the darkness. Michael woke John, and they both went to check it out. As they searched with their flashlights, they found nothing suspicious. Deciding it might have been an animal, they returned to their tents and tried to sleep. In the morning, they found their food scattered and damaged. The items they had left by the fire were missing. The friends began to panic, realizing they were not alone in the canyon. Michael suggested exploring the area to find clues and understand who or what could have done this. Sarah, Rebecca, and John agreed, and they set off, leaving the camp. Throughout the day, they noticed strange marks on trees and rocks, as if someone had marked the territory. On the second night, they decided to stay together and not leave the camp. They lit a large fire and tried not to fall asleep, discussing what had happened. Suddenly, Sarah noticed movement in the shadows. She pointed it out to Michael, who shone his flashlight in that direction. In the beam of light, they saw a person standing at a distance. The face was hidden under a hood, and they did not move. The friends panicked and started yelling for help, but the figure remained still. Michael tried to approach, but the person suddenly disappeared into the darkness. The next day, they decided to leave the canyon immediately. They packed up the camp and started a fast march to the exit. However, the further they went, the stronger the feeling that someone was watching them grew. Halfway there, they found one of their paths blocked by fallen trees. The friends began to panic, but Michael calmed them down and suggested another route. However, there they faced another obstacle. Someone was clearly trying to make their escape difficult. When they finally reached the canyon's exit, it was already getting dark. They were exhausted and scared, but fortunately came across a group of hikers who called for help. They reported the incident to the police, but no trace of the unknown person was found. That weekend left deep scars on the friends. They never returned to Arroyo Canyon and always recalled those terrible nights with fear. Someone or something had been watching them, and they knew they were lucky to have escaped alive.